I don't do this very often, so bear with me if I I might need a little help to make sure that I'm not talking in a way that you guys don't understand. The best thing I can do right now is ask a quick question. Has any of you ever had a class, or in your schools, do they have any drafting programs?
Yes.
I think they do. They do. I think for these two, they haven't gotten to it yet. They're
Yeah.
sixth graders.
Oh, okay, all right.
These two are.
So you guys are
But,
just
but
not.
they, but they do actually. They
Yeah.
probably seventh, maybe eighth. I think they get into it. Yeah.
That's one of the things that I've noticed since I've been in designing, is that nowadays a lot of schools will offer AutoCAD, which is the 2D, or CAD drafting, which includes both. And for those kids who actually are curious and want to know about the process, they can actually start in high school. And even though a lot of people, when we need more engineers, for sure. But not everybody wants to go to school for 5 or 6 years, which is fine. But there are ways to be able to contribute to this particular industry without having to be an engineer. And that's where, I'm not an engineer, I'm a designer. And when I first came back to designing, one of the things that really motivated me a lot was because it was in 3D. They use 3D at Pixar, Industrial Light and Magic. Have you ever heard of those names?
Pixar.
Those are the ones that do what?
Cartoons and all.
Yeah, all the 3D cartoons. I'm curious about something. What made you guys sign up for STEM?
My parents.
I mean, you guys,
What did you say you were interested in?
why are you here? Are you here because your parents told you to come, or because you're curious as to what STEM means? I'll let you.
It's interesting.
Although my boys weren't saying anything, my oldest, he's always had interest in science, whether that was mixing things or building things or constructing things. He's always had an interest in it. So whenever I heard about the STEM program and heard about like all of it, all the things they were trying to expose the kids to, it really seemed to kind of go into where my son had his interest. So although he's not saying anything at all, when it comes to, it encompasses all of it. It could go from dinosaurs through like chemistry through technology. It kind of goes up the whole little board. That's kind of like where his interests are.
Yeah.
And his little brother likes doing what he does.
Yeah.
So.
And you know what? One of the things that I understand about this, not only this program, but the fact that a lot of kids, they tend to not know why they're taking these classes at school. They tend to not understand why they're being offered. And I'm sure that the program is trying to help you guys with information from people that are using this information on a daily basis to help you understand what that class is for, how it can benefit you. And the biggest thing that I think about when I think about being involved in this program is to make sure that a lot of you guys know that some of the things that other people say or that you may have thought was really hard is not really hard. It's about whether or not you're willing to take the time to learn it. The same way, again, I use sports a lot because I know that's an area where we see a lot of examples of people actually raising the bar, doing a very good job at what they do, just because they put time into it and they're interested in it. And those two things are there. You don't need to worry about the money because the money's going to take care of itself. But you got to also have to understand that your community, whether it's here just locally in Houston, whether it's the state, Austin, Dallas, Galveston, whatever, that all of these places need people to help them run it. and to help them build it. And if you want to be a part of that, you have to spend some time. You have to be willing to work at it. So in drafting, you have 2D, which is what AutoCAD is, software that includes 3 dimensions. Now, are y'all in high school or middle school?
Middle school.
And have you taken any geometry yet?
Yes.
A little bit. Yeah. Well, that's where the importance of having understanding of geometry is important to this career path, because, like for instance, as you know, or you may not know, when you say 2-dimensional, you're talking about a flat surface. It's just what they have axes of X and Y. You've seen a graph where you have to chart information and the line goes rise over run? That's 2-dimensional. The vertical is the Y and the horizontal is the X. Well, what happens with the technology that's available nowadays is that they were able to add the 3rd dimension, which is Z. And that brings things from a 2-dimensional to a 3-dimensional, because it has depth, width, height, and shape. And with that, you can build all the contours that you need. And one of the reasons that this technology or this science is extremely important today is because when you're talking about building things as large as an oil rig or as complicated as an automobile, you want to be able to design it so that you can tell before you take it out to manufacture it, so that you can tell it's actually going to work. It's actually going to fit, and all of the design features that you put into it are going to work in the way that you plan them to work. So a lot of this has to do with getting a head start, being a little bit in front of what it is you're trying to design. Now, designers, we work in different ways. When you think of an engineer or an architect, they're the people who know the scientific parts of building something. Weight, structure, load, tensile strength, all the other things that you have to calculate scientifically. And when it comes to designing, which is where it comes to me, is where I actually put it together based on those limits that they have already reviewed. And that's when we build a product, first in virtual space. You guys have heard that term, virtual space? Right now, I realize that I'm speaking more to you guys because I'm hoping that y'all can recognize some of the things that we're talking about. You know what virtual space is? Virtual meaning that it's not really real, but you're actually able to manipulate it. Like, what do they call those games?
Like Minecraft.
Yeah.
Like when you're able to go on there and it's not something you can touch, but on Minecraft. You have to do 3D things and add stuff to it, or add blocks, or add rooms, or things like that.
It doesn't really exist except for in digital form. And it's a virtual product or image. So when it comes to that, we work in a virtual world. We work in a space that we're creating the design features that we need, so that when we actually do it as a solid product, we'll know it works. Now, as a designer, I get a chance to sit down and create drawings. I create models first, then I create drawings. And then drawings are nothing more than an instruction that I'm giving in written form to the people in the manufacturing shop so that they can actually build it. Because they got to understand how long, what angle, what shape they're working with. Okay? And that way they can complete the process.
So once you build the rig and then it drills into the ground, when they hit the oil, how do they stop it from shooting up, or how do they soak it up and put it into a tank? How does that procedure go about?
Okay, that's part where usually those reservoirs of oil are under pressure. And that's why some of the movies you've seen where the oil is just, as soon as they hit it, it's just spewing out of the hole.
Right.
There's a lot of pressure in the hole. So what they have is a device that will cap the well and that will hold the pressure in. And if it If the pressure is such that it will come up by itself, then all you have to do is just control the flow. But if, for those wells where there's not pressure, where they have to go in, they can pump it out with pumpers, with pumps. Some of those horsehead derricks that you see in the country, where they're going up and down, that's what they're doing. They're pumping it out of the ground.